Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Healthy and Happy Lifestyle Summit. My name is Dr. Judy Brangman, and I am a board certified internal medicine physician. I'm also certified in lifestyle medicine, and I teach clients how to live healthier and live better by making lifestyle changes. Today's presentation is going to be about how to prevent and reverse chronic diseases with food. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. So today we're going to discuss how to prevent or reverse chronic diseases, what factors contribute to a healthy and happy lifestyle, as well as what foods to eat to prevent disease and what foods to avoid or limit to prevent disease. So I know that many people often think that genetics determines whether they will develop chronic diseases, and we tend to give more credit to genetics than lifestyle. But in fact, there is numerous evidence to show that an individual's lifestyle is the most important factor that determines whether they will develop chronic diseases or not. It is well known that 80% of chronic diseases are directly related to unhealthy lifestyle habits. So what are those habits? Poor diet, smoking, being overweight or obese, and physical inactivity. In addition, 23% of people consume the recommended servings of 5 or more fruits and vegetables per day. So what is chronic diseases? And when I'm speaking of chronic diseases in this presentation, it's referring to specifically type 2 diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, stroke. I'm also going to mention some foods to eat that can improve and possibly reverse certain autoimmune diseases, specifically lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and multiple sclerosis. So let's talk about what we are consuming in America as a percentage of our total calories. It's quite astonishing to me that only 12% of our calories come from plant foods, while 25% come from animal foods, and a huge 63% of our calories comes from processed foods. So what are processed foods? Those are your foods that come in a package, anything that has several ingredients in it. And if you can't pronounce the words from them, that's probably a good clue that it's packaged and processed. And we're going to go more into that in this presentation. So if you have not heard of the blue zones, it's definitely a topic to look more into. The blue zones are areas of the world with the highest percentage of centenarians. These are people that live into 100 years of age, and not only do they have longevity, but they also have a good quality of life. So many of them are still active well into their senior years and participate in physical activity on a regular basis. And one key factor that they all tend to have in common is that they all eat a predominantly whole food plant-based diet. Now they do eat meat, but when they do eat meat, it is in small servings. Some of the areas of blue zones are Costa Rica, Italy, Japan, Loma Linda as well. And so what should we be eating for health? There were 2 different studies that looked at this, and they found some very interesting information. Compared to similar health-conscious meat eaters, the risk of developing diabetes was 38% lower among lacto-ovo-vegetarians and 62% lower among vegans. Also, compared to similar health-conscious non-vegetarians, the risk of hypertension was 55% lower among lacto-ovo-vegetarians and 75% lower among vegans. So to summarize this, it's showing that the risk of developing type 2 diabetes and hypertension is lower amongst lacto-ovo-vegetarians and vegans. So these are my tips of what we should be eating for optimum health. These are things that we can eat to reduce our risk of developing chronic diseases, namely type 2 diabetes, hypertension, stroke, high cholesterol. And these are things that you can be eating on a regular basis, of course, in consultation with your primary care provider. None of the information in this presentation is medical advice. So the most important thing that you can do for health is eating more fruits and vegetables. As I showed on the previous slide, only 23% of people in America consume the recommended amount of fruit and vegetables. So at least 5 to 6 servings a day should be consumed. And you can eat more than that. It's actually better to eat more than that. And I recommend for my clients and patients to eat mostly vegetables. So in the morning, you can eat fruit. So say an apple and a banana. And then for lunch, make half of the food on the plate vegetables. And for dinner, make half of the food on the plate vegetables. And if you go by that guide of making at least half of the food on your plate, fruit and vegetables, you're going to be on a better path for optimal health. You're going to increase your fiber intake, your vitamin intake, and your phytonutrient intake, which comes from fruits and vegetables. So eating mostly vegetables is key. And particularly, you want to make sure that you're eating sufficient green leafy vegetables. Why is this important? Because green leafy vegetables are high in calcium, they contain iron, and they are extremely beneficial for your health. So if you're not eating green leafy vegetables on a regular basis, I definitely encourage you to consider starting. Also, what else can you eat for health? Beans. A lot of people consume beans on a regular basis for health. They contain fiber, and they also are great sources of protein. There was one study that actually showed that individuals that consumed more servings of beans had lower risk of developing colon cancer. So beans is something that I recommend for optimal health, and the data supports eating beans for increasing your fiber intake as well as helping your microbiome. What else can you eat for health, or drink for health in this case, which would be water, making sure that you're staying hydrated. So you want to choose water over sweetened beverages. So anything that has sugar or any sweetener in it is not ideal. So that would be soda, even if it's sugar-free soda, if it's juice, all of those things are not going to be ideal. Even juicing is not as ideal as eating or drinking a smoothie, because when you juice, you're taking out the fiber, which has huge health benefits for you. So you definitely want to make sure that you're drinking more water. Raw foods. It's very important that when you're eating your fruits and vegetables, particularly your vegetables, I know sometimes we tend to cook them, is to make sure that you're not overcooking them. So what you can do is set a goal to eat some raw vegetables every day. That can be a salad, or it can be broccoli that you're eating raw, or it can be carrots that you dip in hummus. But raw foods are great because when you cook the foods, it tends to break it down, so to speak, and some of the vitamins and minerals get lost. Especially if you're boiling it in water, the vitamins and minerals sometimes can come out in the water and it's less nutritious in the food. Also, probiotics are very important. There are several sources of probiotics, but probiotics are really good for gut health to improve your gut microbiome. So I like kimchi. I use yogurt and sauerkraut, which are good sources of probiotics. Also, kombucha also has probiotics in it. Also, vitamin D is also great to make sure you're getting enough of for optimal health. This is something that you can get tested with a blood test at your doctor's office to make sure that your levels are good. If your vitamin D levels are low, that can lead to problems with reduced immune function, depressed mood, and you want to make sure that you're getting adequate sunlight, which can help with the vitamin D levels. Some sources of vitamin D as far as foods to eat would be fatty fish, foods fortified with vitamin D, such as orange juice, soy milk, and cereals. And then lastly, also want to touch on fiber some more, which is very important for optimal health. Fiber has been shown to reduce the risk of developing colon cancer. Fiber is excellent for reducing cholesterol. So if someone has high cholesterol, eating more fiber will help them to be able to lower that cholesterol naturally. And what are some good sources of fiber? So your whole grains, so quinoa, farro, brown rice, beans, chia seeds, fruit and vegetables are all good sources of fiber. And it's important to keep in mind that animal products do not have any fiber in them. So meat, dairy, and eggs do not contain any fiber. So that's why, as I mentioned, it's very important to make sure that your meals are centered around fruits and vegetables, as opposed to making your meals centered around meat. When you fix your plate, you want at least half to be vegetables. A quarter can be protein, and then a quarter can be a whole grain. And these are the foods that you should consider avoiding or limiting to prevent chronic diseases. Processed foods, those are your packaged goods, as I mentioned earlier. Added sweeteners, all of them are not ideal for health, except possibly honey in moderation. But with regards to added sweetness, the high fructose corn syrup, table sugar, all are not health foods and the things that should be limited in general, particularly for immune function, if you want to improve your immune system as well, and especially if you want to improve your diabetes. Dairy. So dairy is found in milk specifically, and dairy, as you showed on the previous slide, individuals that were lacto-ovo vegetarians had lower risk of type 2 diabetes and hypertension. Eggs. Eggs is also something that's high in cholesterol. So if you have high cholesterol and you want to reduce it with food, you would want to consider reducing the consumption of eggs or eliminating eggs completely would be ideal. One egg has a lot of cholesterol in it. And I know most people eat more than one egg when they fix their omelet or scrambled egg. So eggs are not something that you have to eat for health. You can certainly get protein and sources and nutrients from other foods that's not going to have the cholesterol in it. And then also, I want to mention about how food is prepared. So when you're preparing foods at high and dry temperatures, specifically frying foods, roasting, barbecuing, those high temperatures at the dry heat is not healthy for our bodies. It's better to eat foods that are baked or boiled for overall health. And the reason in that is because when we barbecue and roast foods at the high dry temperatures, it causes advanced glycation end products, which has been shown to increase the risk for cardiovascular disease. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss about processed meat a little bit. And I know we've probably all heard about this lately with it being classified as a group 1 carcinogen. And the World Health Organization advises to limit the consumption of processed meat or avoid it completely. Also, red meat has been classified as probably carcinogenic to humans. And they define processed meat as meat that has been transformed through salting, curing, fermentation, smoking, or other processes. And red meat, as you know, is beef, pork, lamb, and things like that. So those are other foods that you should avoid or limit for reducing your risk of heart disease, as well as reducing your risk or preventing hypertension, as well as reversing hypertension. With regards to heart disease, there's no clear data to show that an individual can actually reverse heart disease or completely reverse heart disease, but you can definitely prevent it by eliminating eggs, reducing dairy, eliminating processed meats, red meats, and eating more fruits and vegetables. And with regards to meats, if you consume meat, it's better to eat fish and eliminate processed meat altogether, as well as eliminating red meat as well. And also, it's often said that chicken or poultry is ideal to consume for health, but that depends on the individual. If you're someone that has high cholesterol and you want to reduce it and you're taking a statin medication and you want to come off the medication or maybe see if you can improve your cholesterol with diet, what's going to help you get there is going to be eliminating cholesterol in your diet. Now, I know some people think that you have to eat cholesterol to be healthy, but you actually don't. That's actually a common misbelief. Your body can synthesize cholesterol. You don't have to consume dietary cholesterol in order for your body to meet its cholesterol needs. So people on a vegan diet or purely plant-based diet don't consume any cholesterol because cholesterol is only found in meat and dairy. And so if you're not eating meat and dairy, you may think, oh my goodness, what's my cholesterol going to be? It's going to be 0, or, I'm going to have problems with brain function or something like that. And that's absolutely not true. So you don't need to consume cholesterol. You don't need to eat meat to be healthier. But in fact, if you really want to reduce your risk for high cholesterol, reduce your high cholesterol and reduce your risk for stroke and heart disease, consideration would be to reduce or eliminate sources of cholesterol in your diet, and that would be meat and dairy. Okay, so next I just want to touch on briefly some more points about dairy, and you can find more about this on my website, or you can message me individually. Casein is a protein in dairy that has been linked to prostate and breast cancer, as well as dairy has been shown to stimulate insulin-like growth factor 1, which accelerates cancer cell growth. Dairy also can cause constipation. And dairy actually can be very addictive, and that's because it contains casomorphins, which sort of gets a similar response as opioids. So that's why it's very, very hard to reduce dairy or eliminate it for many people. Also, I think it's interesting to note that 65% of the population is actually lactose intolerant, and we don't need to consume dairy for health. And actually, most health professionals that know about health and wellness now would recommend to eliminate milk completely, particularly for the gut microbiome, overall health, reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes as well. And so this is a picture of the healthy eating plate from Harvard Medical School, and I really like it a lot. As you can see, it shows half of the plate being fruits and vegetables, most of it being vegetables. It has a quarter or so being healthy protein, and then your whole grains. This is something that you can find online, and it's my favorite healthy eating plate, actually, because it list under the protein to choose fish, poultry, beans, and nuts, limit red meat and cheese, and avoid bacon, cold cuts, and processed meats. So it doesn't have dairy or milk on there as an essential part of the food plate, which some plates do. So as we discussed, a healthy diet is essential. As I mentioned, 80% of chronic diseases are directly related to lifestyle choices. And primarily, the most important thing that you can change today that will get you on a path to optimal health is changing your diet. We all eat 3 times a day, so we should make every time that we eat count towards optimal health. And in summary, an unhealthy diet is one that is high in processed foods with added fat, sugar, and salt, and high in animal products that are rich in saturated fats. And in addition, unhealthy diets tend to be low in vegetables, fruits, legumes, that's beans, as well as whole grains. And a quote that I want to leave you with is, every time you eat or drink, you are feeding or fighting disease. And that is how we should view food when we eat it. Instead of eating food to make ourselves feel good, so maybe if you're stressed or whatnot, you may eat ice cream and crave junk food and fried foods. Shift your mindset and think about, what is this food doing for my body? Is it giving me vitamins? Is it giving me nutrients, phytonutrients? Is it packed with fiber? Is it packed with things that's going to help me to reduce my risk of chronic diseases? Is it going to help me to reverse certain chronic diseases in some cases? And think about that when you choose what you're eating. And so I just want to share a story about a few patients that I've had actually with type 2 diabetes that have been able to significantly reduce the medications that they were on for diabetes. I've had patients with type 2 diabetes that were on an oral medication and insulin, and that were able to come off of insulin completely by simply switching towards a more plant-based diet. It wasn't even 50%, but they went from eating, say, 1 or 2 fruits and vegetables in a day to making sure that every time they ate, they had at least 1 or 2 servings. And I also had a patient that was a newly diagnosed type 2 diabetes that was able to completely reverse his type 2 diabetes in a few months by going to a completely whole food plant-based diet. And he's been able to remain off medications with a normal hemoglobin A1C. Now it's a year and a half later. I've also had patients that have had a high blood pressure that have been able to reduce their medications by eating more fruits and vegetables. And in addition, speaking about myself personally, I have a family history of stroke and heart attack. My grandfather died of a heart attack. My grandmother died and she had diabetes, dementia, she was overweight. And my parents, now who are at high risk for developing these conditions, lived and ate mostly a plant-based diet, low in processed foods, eliminating red and processed meats, and limiting dairy. And they are retired in their late 60s and thriving and living well, and take no medications. And so I hope that this presentation was inspiring for you and that you've learned something about what foods you can eat to live healthier and to live healthier. And I just want you to know that chronic diseases are preventable, and certain chronic diseases are reversible. If you want to learn more about how you can live healthier and happier, you can contact me on Instagram or Facebook at The Plant-Based MD. You can also check out my website, theplantbasedmd.com. And if you subscribe to my list, you will get my free wellness plant-based guide. In addition, I also do lifestyle medicine and health coaching at my lifestyle medicine virtual practice. And you can go to my website there, mynewihealth.com. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you in the next summit.